Hello there, Carrie Rhoades here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is episode 4 of my May Stamp Set of the Month series. This month I have been featuring the Rainbow Turnabout stamp set from Concord 9th, and in today's episode I'm going to be showing you a way to use this stamp set where you don't make rainbows. We're going to make treats instead of rainbows. It's tons of fun. When I first got this stamp set, I showed it to my daughter and she thought it was to make watermelons. So that's what I did. All right, so let's get started with watermelons and another treat that was my idea once I started thinking about how to use this stamp set differently. Here we go. Here's the Rainbow Turnabout stamp in my Misty, and I have the jig that I will use to set up my cardstock, but I am not going to be turning it today. I am only going to stamp this down one time using Twisted Citron Distress Oxide ink. You'll see me using my embossing anti-static tool there so that I can emboss this and make sure that the embossing powder is only going to stick to the images that I stamp. So if you want to see how to use this Rainbow Turnabout stamp in its traditional way to make multicolored backgrounds that look like rainbows, I have that in my first 2 episodes for this stamp set of the month series, and I will link those in the description box for you below. So I'm stamping this 2 times. I really want to make sure that I get a high concentration of ink because I am going to emboss this, and you can do that with your Distress Oxide inks. So I'm pouring on clear powder over a folded in half piece of scrap paper so I can pour that back in, and then I'll go ahead and melt that powder with my heat tool so that these images are set, because I want to watercolor in the rest of my watermelons and I don't want any of the green to, you know, smudge or be watercolored. I don't want it to mix with this picked raspberry ink, so embossing them was the best way to go. I am going to spritz that with a little bit of water after smooshing it down on my glass mat so that I can use it as watercolor to fill in these not rainbows but watermelons. And once my daughter said that, I knew immediately I was going to have to make a watermelon background. But I think it's really fun because it's a completely different way to use this turnabout stamp, and that's to make your own backgrounds that look like watermelons. So, you know, it's always good when you can get multiple uses out of your stamps. So this one has plenty of uses. I actually, when it very first came out on the Concord 9th, I think it was in their newsletter, it was on their blog, their guest designer, Lydia Feidler, had made a card with this where she only stamped it one time in black ink and made them to look like smiley faces, and she added googly eyes right above the smiles. That's so clever, right? Oh my gosh. So there's another idea for you, and I'm going to be showing you another one after this. So once I've completed all my little watermelons, I am going to add some seeds, of course. So I just have a black journaling pen here, nothing special. You could use a fine tip Sharpie, whatever kind of black pen that you have around. And I'm just freehanding these. There is a stamp in an upcoming stamp set I'm going to show you that you could use for this if you wanted to, if you're, you know, not wanting to draw these in yourself. However, they wouldn't work on the tiniest of watermelons. So you just have to go for it. Sometimes we hate our own drawing, but it's not as bad as you think. So just have fun and go for it. All right, so there's the background, and here's the stamps that I was talking about. It's called Brighter Days, another new release from Concord 9th that came out the same time as this turnabout, and you can see you can build a rainbow with it, but I'm not making rainbows today. So I took the second to the largest piece, stamped that with my Twisted Citron, and again, I'm going to make a watermelon, so I want to emboss the green part with clear powder, and then I'm going to do the same watercoloring as I did before with the Picked Raspberry Distress Oxide ink and make this a giant slice of watermelon. I am using a water brush when I do all of this so I can squeeze out a little bit more water if I need to, because this does have water in the barrel of this brush. So I will fill that in. I love making the little bite mark out of it. So cute. And I am using Nina Classic Crest Solar White cardstock in 110 pound for this. I wanted something that was good to emboss on, good to do light watercoloring. So that's what I decided to go with, but it's not a ton of watercolor, so you could probably get away with any white cardstock that you have. I didn't want to go with watercolor for this. I wanted a really crisp, clean look. So this Have a Beautiful Day that I stamped is also from that Brighter Days stamp set, and I thought it looked really cute right above the watermelon stamped in black. And then for the seeds, I used a die from the Brighter Days die set that is to cut out raindrops. You could also use a raindrop stamp, and I die cut that from glitter cardstock. So now I have watermelon seeds. All right, this is the Pinstripe Background stamp. Came out at the same time. All these products came out with in the same release. I couldn't resist getting them all. So that's why you're seeing them. They're new. I had to play with them. So I'm inking this up with Lucky Clover, and I'm going to stamp that down onto a bright green cardstock to give that look of the watermelon that has the bright green and the dark green stripes. Just like a hint. That's what it was inspired by. So once that's stamped down, I'm going to cut it up and start putting this card together. But before I could do that, I had to splatter. This is Sparkle Silk. I'm splattering over my background just to add a splash of sparkle in the back. I love splatter, so you're going to see it on a lot of my cards. I love it. It's my thing. So I've cut this panel down to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I really like this size on top of my A2 cards because it leaves like a teeny tiny sliver of a border around the edge. I just love that look. So I've been doing that a lot lately. I'm going to put a heavy block on top of that and let it set while I start getting my other things ready. And once that's dry, I'm going to glue on my striped panel. I'm using a T-square ruler just to make sure I get it straight. I don't know what it is, but like once I'm getting older, it's harder for me to get things straight. So I like these handy little tools to help me. It's very handy. I have a tiny little sliver of the black glitter cardstock to add in there just to help add to the interest, and I like to repeat elements. So if I used glitter cardstock once, it's kind of fun to use it twice. So on goes my watermelon with some foam squares, and then I have a few more of those watermelon seeds / raindrops to add for just like they, you know, when you eat watermelon, you spit out the seeds, so they're like always around. Yeah, that's why those are there. If you are into watermelon cards, you want to check out my last video where I made a watermelon shaker card, also using a die that is meant for raindrops to make seeds for the shaker. Okay, on to card number 2 and treat number 2 with this set. I'm going to stamp my rainbow background with the Picked Raspberry ink. I'm not embossing it this time, but I am going to watercolor it. So I'm going to stamp it 2 times, and you'll see here I had a boo-boo. I'm sure boo-boos happen to you too. Yeah, so when I stamped it my second time, I did not realize that my turnabout jig had moved just a little bit, which caused my images to be offset from each other a tiny bit. So I'm thinking, should I redo it? And then I decided it's going to be fine because I'm going to watercolor these. So any little boo-boos, I can just watercolor out, right? So some more Picked Raspberry down onto my glass mat, and I will pick that up with my same water brush pen and watercolor these out and take care of any of those over stamped lines. So this time I decided these would look really cute as little popsicles. Don't you think? I think they're adorable. Some of them were a little short and fat, so I extended the line of the rainbow down a tiny bit so that they weren't too short. But it's just personal preference. I think they're really cute. And then once those are all watercolored, I have some, oh gosh, I forgot the color. I'll put it on the screen. I keep thinking it's going to come to me, to make the little sticks for my popsicles. Again, it's a really easy thing to hand do. It's just basically a line. So don't be afraid. You can do this. It's really fun to challenge yourself to do things like this. So I'm stamping that same bow that I used for the watermelon, this time turning it into a popsicle. So I will paint that out, and I am going over that pink line that I stamped, trying to blend that in with my watercoloring and just working my way towards the middle where I want it to be lighter in the middle. This helps create the look of shine and maybe like it looks a little bit wet. And then I will also add a stick to that. Oh, and I'm making a little color swatch here. You'll see what I'm going to do with that in a minute. And once I painted the stick on, I realized I needed it a little bit longer. 2 times I made it a little bit longer, and then I thought it was just right. So there's my little popsicle that I will fussy cut out, and it is so adorable. There we go. All right, so I'm using those same raindrop dies and die cut out that little color swatch I made, and those will become the drips of my popsicle. Isn't that a versatile die? All right, this one had to have splatter 2. If I'm going to splatter 1, I'm going to splatter 2. Really, I'm going to splatter all the things. Just an FYI, I will splatter all the things. All right, so there's that background. We'll let that dry and stamp some more pinstripe backgrounds. This is some oatmeal cookie cardstock, stamping it with that same Distress Oxide ink that I used for my popsicle sticks, just to have a little added interest on that color. It's really like kind of like a tone-on-tone look, but man, you could use that pinstripe background stamp on so many things. Just that little something that needs a little bit of detail, that's the stamp for it. Plus it has that row of hearts. I'm going to use that pinstripe a lot. All right, I have ground espresso. I'm bringing in another sentiment from the Brighter Days stamp set that says, brighter days are ahead. I thought it was really cute, and you could use it on many things besides rainbow cards. So it was perfect for this one right here. All right, so we'll put this all together. You can see my little popsicle is going to go up on foam squares, and I found some just plain glittered cardstock worked really well for an accent for this card. So I'm sticking that on, removing some excess glue right there, and snipping that away. On with the popsicle, and I don't know what it is, but anytime I have an image that has a stick, I always feel like I need to put a bow on it. So I'm going to be adding a bow to it. I'm adding these drips, and these are all the things that are like the love. I always say love is in the details. So adding these little things like the drips, like the bow, those are the elements of love in a card. Once I put on these little drips, I thought I would paint some onto the background as well. Just a few here and there I thought would be really cute. So I put 3 little drips on the popsicles where the drip would actually be falling down instead of going up. You know what I mean? Some of those popsicles are upside down. Yeah. So here's the twine that I'm tying in a little bow, and then I'll take a glue dot, and I like to roll my glue dot into a little teeny tiny burrito. And once that's rolled up, I can stick it down where I want my twine to go. I just find this a lot less stressful than trying to tie a perfect bow around something. And then the magic of a white gel pen. Do you agree? It's magical. It really brings things to life. So I'm going to add a white highlight to each of my little popsicles, even in the background, and that just makes this card. Again, love is in the details, right? So those are the 2 cards for today. But as I was cutting up my little pinstripe pieces for my card and had leftovers, I thought I could make a little pocket for the inside of the card where we could put a gift card. So I made one for each of the cards and stamped a little saying right below the notch that I cut out with a circle die. This one says feel better, and the one for my watermelon says thank you. I'm going to put those on with some double stick tape, just putting it on 3 sides, the 2 ends and the bottom, not the top. That's where the gift card will slide in and out. It's a really simple pocket to add to your card. Once I went to stick these down, I realized they were a little too big. So I cut them a little bit off the bottom. So now they measure 2.5 by 4 1/4. And here's another tip. I like to double up my double stick tape when I do a pocket for a gift card. It raises it up just a hair and makes it a tiny bit easier to get your gift card in and out. So there is that one for my popsicle card, and then I'll add the other one to my watermelon card. And now I have 2 cards. I can easily give someone a gift card, and this is something you could do without a die set. It kind of repeats the look on the outside of the card, so it's a really fun way to add that. And you have a little less space to write a message if you can't think of something to say, right? You have this smaller space. Those things happen sometimes. All right, those are the cards for episode 3. I hope that you have enjoyed it. If you missed episode 1 and 2, remember they're linked below, and it will show you how to use the Turnabout stamp set as a turnabout, but in different ways. You're going to love it if you haven't seen it. If you're new here, I would love for you to subscribe. I have new videos all the time, and I will be back next Tuesday with more ideas with the Rainbow Turnabout stamp set just for you. Happy stamping. I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye.